Oh, okay. It worked. We're live. Hello, everybody. Chuck Holton here. I was thinking it wasn't going to work there for a minute because I was hitting go live and it was giving me an error. So sorry about that for a couple minutes late. I was trying to get it working. Hopefully, you can hear me. Do me a favor, post in the chat down there where you're watching from. We'd like to see that. Hi, Candelina. Good to see you. Uh, she was asking me about getting a Starlink earlier today. I like my Starlink a lot. The Hot Zone viewers kindly donated to get me a Starlink, and that's made it a lot easier for me to go live from lots of fun places. So we've got cool things to talk about today. I really was not planning on talking about the whole drone thing because it's not a war or disaster. But I've had so many people ask me to talk about the drone thing that I guess I'll talk about the drone thing. So we're going to get into whether or not there are UFO drones that are hovering over the United States looking to suck your souls out or something like that. Um, and we're going to talk about what drones can do and what they can't do and what they are doing but shouldn't be doing. And we'll talk about some very big concerns regarding drones. So you're going to want to stay tuned for this one. So first, first of all, you may have to excuse me for a second while I go get something to drink because nobody's home right now, and that's why I'm doing this from my living room here in West Virginia. I hope your Christmas is going to be as lit as mine is. We're going to have a great time for Christmas. So, right after this live, I'm going to go live again from my own channel over at the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton. And so I think I can maybe post the link to that in my in the chat there. So I'll pin that and you guys can uh, hit that. Don't go now, but after we get done with this live, I will go live over there and we'll talk about a very interesting story that's near and dear to my heart. That is that today is a special anniversary for me. It's the 35th anniversary of Operation Just Cause, otherwise known as the invasion of Panama. And why is that near and dear to me? Because that was my first introduction to combat. And so when I, as a young man, a young ranger, I parachuted into Panama on the night of December 19th, coming into the 20th. So it's December 20th is always a important day for the Holton family. Okay, so let's talk about this drone thing. First of all, uh, everybody is freaking out over they're doing the whole freaky out thing about the drones. I don't think that's really necessary. Uh, Meaning, I don't think they're going to attack us yet. I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're setting up for you know a nuclear. The story that I've been hearing from people that they're contacting me about is whether or not the drones in New Jersey are sniffing for radiation. And I'll get into why that's highly unlikely. And we'll also talk a little bit about we'll talk a little bit about why that how strange it is that the government is telling us, look, there's nothing to see here, there's nothing to worry about, but we don't know what they are. Because if they don't know what they are, then how do they know there's nothing to worry about? If they do know what they are, then they're lying to us, and we should be worried just because they're lying to us. So we're going to talk more about that. Stanley Barton says, "Did you jump out of my C-141? Uh, were you flying the C-141? I was in a C-130, I believe, if I remember right. but there were a few 141s carrying Jeep bike teams and stuff. We'll talk about that. Make sure you don't miss that live, Stanley, that I'm going to do at 2:15 Eastern time today. Okay, so first of all, there have been drone sightings that are pretty fishy going back for more than a year. As a matter of fact, about a year ago, I mean, if you just go back in the last 12 months, we've had suspicious drone sightings over military bases in several countries, not just in the United States. There have been drone sightings in Germany, drone sightings in Indonesia, drone sightings in Guam, uh, and drone sightings in the UK, as well as several places across the United States, places that are concerning, to say the least. That's like the Naval Shipyard in Virginia Beach or the Air Force Base at Nellis in Las Vegas. These are big concerns. Now, I want to just talk a little bit about drones and give you a little bit of background on why. I know a little bit about drones because I've been a drone pilot for many years now. And so we're going to talk. I'm going to give you a little background, a little education on drones in general, and then sort of apply that knowledge to what we're seeing in the news here and see if we can come up with any um, ideas, see if we can come up with any possibilities here. Before I do that, I want to recommend that you go and share this podcast on your other social media. You just hit that little arrow thing. It's, I don't know, bottom of your screen, maybe top of your screen, depends on what platform you're on. But go ahead and hit that and share this with your friends on Twitter and Facebook and other social media so that we can get the word out about this. Also, if you hit the like button and put anything in the chat, it actually helps quite a bit because then YouTube's algorithm shows other people that haven't come to CBN before that we are live and we have something to offer. Okay. So also, thank you, Mama Marissa, for being on. You are so faithful, and I really appreciate your help moderating since my family's all out Christmas shopping today. They are not going to be on moderating, so I appreciate you very much. Thank you very much, Eric. Appreciate that. CBN appreciates that. So if you want to donate to CBN, go to cbn.com and donate. Is the best place to do it. And that's but we'll take donations here as well. That's fine. Thank you very much for that. So first of all, a commercial drone, uh, anybody who wants to fly a drone commercially or even recreationally uh, needs to have something called a Part 107 license. That's a drone pilot's license that is administered by the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. And you have to go take a test. And believe me, it is a very difficult test. I was a helicopter pilot. Well, not actually a pilot. I was an Aero Scout observer in the Army before I got out of the military for my last few years because I got tired of being an infantryman and tromping around in the mud. So I decided my second hitch to go fly helicopters. I got in as basically a crew chief on a Bell Jet Ranger. It's a military version of the Bell Jet Ranger. It's called a Kiowa uh, OH-58. And I was the left seat co-pilot on that. I was not the pilot, so I can't say I was a helicopter pilot. I was a helicopter co-pilot, Aero Scout observer, but I did learn how to fly the helicopter, and that was very, very difficult. Well, the Part 107 license, I would say, is every bit as difficult, if not more, than the test I had to take to be able to fly a military helicopter. And I think they make it that way on purpose, just to discourage people from flying drones. I think the FAA sees drones as a real hassle to them, a danger to aviation, and it's something they just the proliferation is crazy. There's too many of them out there, and they can't keep their finger on the pulse of these things. So they want to discourage as many people as possible from actually flying drones. And they know people are going to fly them without a license because you don't have to have a license to buy it. So you could go buy a drone right now and put it up in the air and fly it right now. But they make it so difficult so that it gives them an enforcement mechanism. If you do something stupid, it's one more charge they can throw at you that, oh, you didn't get a license. And so uh, without your Part 107, you cannot fly a drone commercially in the United States or recreationally, unless, now here's your caveat, unless that drone happens to be less than 250 grams. Why 250 grams? Well, I think they decided that when they made this rule, it would be about impossible to make a drone that anything more than, just some kid's toy or something, an actual, capable functional drone less than 250 grams, because that's about the weight of a stick of butter. And at that time, when they made the rule, uh, most drones were 5, 10, 15 pounds even. Uh, so the first drone I had was DJI Inspire, and that thing was its own suitcase. It took its own suitcase to carry around. It was another um, like um, it was another carry or check bag whenever I flew somewhere. However, not to be outdone, DJI, when the FAA came out with this rule that you had to have 250 grams, or you had to be less than 250 grams to be able to fly a drone without a license, DJI said challenge accepted, and they came out with the DJI Mini. This DJI Mini weighs in at 249 grams, right on the right on the line. And so legally, you can buy this drone and you can fly it without a Part 107 license, as long as you're not flying it for commercial purposes to make money with it. Now, I'm not sure how that applies exactly to me flying it for my job uh, as a journalist, because I'm not actually selling the product uh, to the public. Okay. But anyway, never mind. I went and got my Part 107 just to be safe. Okay. And believe me, that is a very difficult, basically, it's a pilot's test. You have to learn how to read all the signs on a taxiway. You have to learn how to make radio calls uh, to the tower. You never do any of that with a drone. That's something you only do with a an actual airplane. You can't fly a drone. It's illegal to fly one of these within 5 miles of an airport. Anywhere that's within 5 miles of an airport, you can't fly it unless you get special permission. And so why do they make you know how to read the signs on a runway? I don't know, just to make it harder. They make you learn all the different types of airspace. They live in just all kinds of crazy stuff that you have to learn to get your pilot's license for a drone that you will never actually use flying a drone. It's crazy. But DJI then checkmated the FAA by coming out with a 249-gram drone like this one that you don't need a license to fly unless you're flying it commercially. And more recently, actually just in the last few months, DJI has come out with another drone that's even smaller. It's this one right here. It's called the DJI Neo, and this drone is 150 grams. So it's a full 100 grams lighter than the the limit. And this thing is like very automated. I can just have it take off right here in the room, and it can follow me. It can like film me when I walk around. It'll just follow me around. It'll, has these uh, cages on it where it'll just bump off walls or whatever. It won't crash if it bumps into something. And these things are amazing. I actually carry one of these with me now almost all the time because if I need to get a quick establishing shot, for example, of someplace where I'm filming a story, this is a great way to do it. I can pop that thing up in the air in 5 minutes, get a quick establishing shot, and bring it back down. It's got 4K cameras on it. It's amazing. Now, I tell you all that just to say that DJI is the world's leader in drone technology. Okay. And they actually sell a something to governments that will allow them to see any of their drones that are flying around in the um, in the area, like let's say around an airport or a government facility or a military base or something like that. I think I can show you that here. So this is it's called the aeroscope that DJI sells, and it looks like this. It goes on a pole someplace, and it will show them any of their drones that are in the area, and will actually allow them in uh, to take control of those drones and basically steal them from their owners and fly them back to their, you know, to the control tower or the airport or whatever, land it. Panama carries these, Panama has these things in its inventory, and it, uh, it, by doing that, if you fly a drone near the airport in Panama, your drone will fly away without you, and you can watch it leave. And then pretty soon you'll get a text message or a phone call that says, here's where you need to go to pick up your drone and pay your fine. Now, you're also supposed to register your drones once you get them with the FAA. And there's a whole process to go through for that. And they are very shortly going to start requiring drones to have basically a squawk box on them, almost like a regular airplane does, that will alert any other aircraft in the area to their presence. This is just to maintain safety and uh, make sure that a helicopter doesn't ingest your drone and you go down in a flaming ball of fire because some kid was out flying his drone somewhere where he shouldn't have been. But this sort of thing happens all the time. People are stupid. They don't learn the rules, they don't know the rules, and they fly these drones illegally all the time. And so because of that, it has just proliferated to the point they're actually now talking about banning DJI drones from the United States altogether. And that's not simply because people are dumb and do dumb things with them, but because DJI is a Chinese company. Any Chinese company is partially owned by the Chinese Communist Party, and the Chinese Communist Party can force those companies to hand over all of the data that they collect from their products. Well, these drones collect a lot of data. And if they're flying all over the United States, they're uploading a lot of that data to the cloud, and China has access to all of that. So it's illegal now for the US government to use any DJI drones. And they're looking at making it illegal for anybody else to use a DJI drone in the United States because China is using all of that data as to engage in corporate, industrial, military espionage, and that espionage, it has real consequences. They, for example, just a second. Are we good? Okay. Uh, they are taking the information that they glean from not just these drones, but from TikTok, from uh, oh goodness, all sorts of routers and cell phones that they sell, Huawei uh, routers, get sold, that sort of thing. And they are pumping all of this data into a massive set of computers that have an AI that they've developed that then aggregates all of that data, everything from how much you use your toaster to your Roomba to your cell phone to your router. They've even found where China has made like teapots that have a plastic handle, and inside that handle, there's a Wi-Fi sniffer. You buy that teapot, you use it on your stove. It's actually sniffing your Wi-Fi, connecting to your Wi-Fi, and watching all of the traffic from your that goes through your Wi-Fi and sending it all back to China. Zoom, if you've ever been on a Zoom call, that's a Chinese company. There's a big deal with them routing all of the Zoom calls that they did. You imagine all the government meetings and everything that they had over Zoom at the beginning and sending them through servers in China so that China could look at those things. China then just takes all of that massive amount of data. You might think it like, what's the big deal if it's on my kid's phone on TikTok? Yeah, but all of that in the aggregate gives China the ability to engage in espionage that would blow your mind. Not just governmental espionage or military espionage, but stuff like just that allows them to advantage Chinese companies over American companies and put American companies out of business. Uh, TikTok, Temu, yeah, that's right. Um, WeChat, I mean, all any app, CapCut, any app that's made in China is probably sucking up your data and sending it off to China. So there is an issue with this from the FAA. There's one big reason why they don't want you flying over military bases or airports or things like that. Just the safety of it and the potential espionage aspect of it. And so they what the concern that people rightly have over these swarms of drones that have been spotted over military bases and airports around the world over the past year is number one, that they are not hobbyist drones. They these are larger drones apparently, and they are often flying in swarms. So it's not just one drone that's flying around, but it's maybe 50 that are flying around at a time, and they're flying in concert with one another. And that is a um, huge concern because it takes some serious technology to do that. And it's not the kind of thing that your average hobbyist is going to have. So let me give you a couple of examples of instances that we know of where fleets of drones are surveilling America's most sensitive military sites. Uh, so, for example, a 26-year-old Chinese national was caught taking photos of a classified Navy shipyard in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Newport News, in January of this year. And he was only caught because one of his drones, I don't know if there were multiple drones, but one of his drones got caught in a tree and he just abandoned it, left it, and got on a plane and flew out, was flying on a one-way flight back to China. This guy was a student in at college in the United States, and he just abandoned that drone. It fell out of the tree and they found it. They found photographs of this classified Navy shipyard on his drone, and they went and caught him, and he eventually pled guilty to espionage. Now, they have also seen these over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. They have seen these, that base, Langley Air Force Base, is where they have the Air Force's F-22 Raptor fighter jets, America's and the world's most advanced stealth aircraft. And so that's obviously a concern. The drones didn't just appear once, they've appeared multiple times. This, again, not just in the last week or two. This is over the last year or two. And they have been uh, tied to Chinese operatives as well as Russian operatives, not the ones in the United States. The one in the UK that they found, that was cited back in December of last year, was found to be uh, a operated by a Russian dissident, or I'm sorry, a Russian operative. And obviously, this is a problem. We had uh, where was the other one that I saw? There's a just today from the Institute for the Study of War. There's some news that uh, just in November 30th, a PRC national, a Chinese national, was caught flying a modified drone over the United States Vandenberg Space Force Base, uh, and what was apparently taking pictures of the base, using it to spy on U.S. military facilities, missile launch sites, etc. Uh, this is very concerning. And so this just happened. This was November 30th. They just caught this guy. Now, Vandenberg Space Force Base, anybody know where that is? And let's go look it up on the map, shall we? Let's go look up let's see. Vandenberg Space Force Base. And that is, wow, just in Southern California. We're going to go, let's pull up the map. So here's Vandenberg Space Force Base right here. Near, I guess that'd be down near Santa Barbara, something like that. I was just out that direction, just north of Los Angeles. So they catch a Chinese national flying a drone over at Vandenberg Space Force Base and taking pictures of it. That's concerning, quite concerning. So, is this a problem? Yes, this is definitely a problem. There's another drones have been spotted over Edwards Air Force Base in Nevada, out here. And now the guy that they caught flying his drone over the um, naval base in Virginia, he got an attorney, and his attorney is trying to say that this guy is just a student. He's just a hobbyist. He's, nobody special. He's not a spy. As a matter of fact, he said if this guy was a spy, he would be the worst spy in history because he got caught. Well, lots of spies have been caught, and he does have a point. It's kind of, you know, obvious when there have been more than 5,000 sightings of drones flying around over just on the East Coast in the last month. However, most of those, it turns out, were not drones, or they were just hobbyist drones. The 5,000 sightings really boil down to about 100 that are actually of concern. But still, that's 100 that are of concern, right? So that's an issue. And this guy was, like I said, he eventually pled guilty to espionage. So we know he admitted to it, that's what he was doing. So obviously, in the context of what we know about drone drones that are um, flying around over military bases and important, stadiums and things like that. From what we have, what we know for sure is that Russia and China are engaging in using drones for nefarious purposes in the United States and over U.S. military bases in Germany and over UK military bases and in Guam and other places. Excuse me. So this is a real problem. Now, does that automatically mean that, sorry, I'm still getting over this cough. Does that automatically mean that the drones that are being seen over New Jersey that they say are the size of SUVs are nefarious? Well, this is where I think it gets a little muddy. First of all, if it's a drone the size of an SUV, any drone that's bigger than 55 pounds is not considered a drone. It's considered an aircraft, right? And the videos that I've seen people posting of the unknown UFO drones that are flying over, uh, flying over New Jersey actually have navigation beacons on them, the red and green flashing lights. And so they are actually built as aircraft. They're not probably alien spacecraft because they probably wouldn't follow our navigation conventions that we have for aircraft in the on planet Earth, red, green, that sort of thing. They have lights on them, and so they're not trying in many cases, to be stealthy. So it's likely that those drones are something to do with the government that they just don't want to tell us about. Again, the government is giving us this sort of, they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth here, and they're saying, nothing to worry about, nothing to see here. They're not of concern, but we don't know what they are. Well, either they do know what they are and they're lying, or they don't know what they are and they are a concern, so they are lying. So either way, we know the government is lying to us, right? But one thing I can say, and this is courtesy of my friend Ryan Macbeth, who you can follow on YouTube as well. Um, he did a great video that kind of debunked the theory that these things are sniffing for radioactive material. That there's some guy that put out a video on social media that he pretended he knew what he was talking about, and he was like, you know, 85 nuclear weapons went missing from Ukraine back in 2014, and we don't know where any of those are. And they think one of them might already be in the United States. And so they're flying drones around sniffing for the radiation to look for them. Well, first of all, no, 85 nuclear weapons did not go missing in Ukraine. That would be world shaking news if that had happened. Everybody would know about that if that had happened. Um, that certainly did not happen. Okay, I can tell you with certainty. Now, Ukraine turned over their nuclear weapons to Russia under the agreement that they made with the United States and under Bill Clinton, and so, but they didn't lose a bunch of them. But Ryan Macbeth points out there's you if you want to really learn about these things, you can go to Ryan Macbeth's channel and watch his video about it. He did a much better job explaining this than I will. But to just put it in succinctly, there's something called the inverse square law, that radiation dissipates like, let's boil it down to the most simplest terms. If you were going to sniff for radiation, you'd have to be very, very close to the source of that radiation. And a nuclear bomb that had radioactive material in it would be shielded, because otherwise it couldn't be handled, couldn't be transported, because it would kill the people who were transporting it if it wasn't shielded. And so that shielding would mean that you would have to have a radiation detector like within a foot or so of the radioactive material, or at least a few feet, in order to be able to pick it up on a Geiger counter. Flying a Geiger counter, even at low level, 50 feet or 90 feet above the ground, 90 feet would be treetop level, would be far too high to get any meaningful reading regarding radiation. They just don't have anything that could uh, pick up radiation from that far away under that inverse square law. So, um, yeah, everybody keeps thinking this is like a green screen background. No, this is my living room. Here, that's my wife's great job setting up the Christmas tree. Folks, go and check out the Hot Zone with Chuck Holton here on YouTube if you haven't already. I'm going to be going live just after this live is over to talk about my experience in the invasion of Panama, which happened 35 years ago today. And so Chuck must have gotten this place pre-marriage or has very understanding wife with a deer head and the moose. I did not shoot that deer or that moose. It was a deal I made with a very kindly old gentleman. And if you come back for the live uh, on the Hot Zone, I will maybe tell you the story of how we ended up with that beautiful moose up there, which my wife calls Sweetie Face, and the real pretty deer back there. We also have a bear over here. Uh, but anyway, so let's go back to the drones. Bottom line is, are the drones possibly uh, tied to an adversarial country? Yes, possibly they are. Are they possibly some secret government program from the US government? Yes, that is also a possibility. Are they some hobbyist that's just flying around for fun? That's also a possibility. There's a non-zero chance that it's some very well-funded hobbyist that has enough money for $1 million worth of drones to fly around in a swarm. But if I had to choose one of those theories, I would say that it probably has to do with um, China or the U.S. government. Now, I, just the people that I know who are in the U.S. government are still saying to me, no, this is not part of the U.S. government. So, bottom line is nobody's talking. And until somebody shoots one of these down or captures one somehow that we can really get a look at it, I guess it is going to remain a question. It also could very well be a bunch of different things. It could be some of the drones that are being seen are uh, from a non-U.S. state actor uh, up to nefarious purposes in the United States, and some of them are just hobbyists, and some of them are copycats who are like, "Hey, everybody's freaking out about drones. I'm going to go fly mine over my neighbor's house and really get him riled up." Right? So I don't think it now. If it is the U.S. government, they're not spying on anything. They are testing drones because the U.S. government is deeply, deeply into uh, fast tracking drone testing to try to get up to speed with where, let's say, the Russians are already right now. Because the war in Ukraine, where I just returned from, has become almost exclusively a war of drones at this point. The drones, Mama Marissa has a good question. I'm going to get to that in a minute. The drones that we saw in Ukraine are amazing. They're 3D printing them. They're building them themselves. They're putting explosives on those drones, and they're using them like bullets that can chase you. And that really is the best way I can describe it, because they launch these things, and then if they see one Russian soldier out in a field somewhere, they will chase that guy down with 4 or 5 of those drones until they take him out with it. And so it's almost like there was a movie, uh, Blade Runner, where they would do that. They had a little drone that they'd fire out of a gun that would actually go around corners and chase somebody down until it hit them. That's basically what they're using them for over there in Ukraine. And they've gotten to the point where they don't even use wireless drones. They have fiber optic guided drones now, where they have a big spool on the back of the drone that has about 5 miles of fiber optic cable, which looks like fishing line in the back of it. And they can connect the controller to the drone via that fiber optic cable. They fly the drone out. They can go up to 5 miles, and there's no electronic interference that can take it down because it doesn't use those kinds of electronics. Now, you might ask yourself, if these things are Chinese or Russian, then why can't the United States government or the military just shoot them down or jam them or something in the United States? Well, that's a good question. There's a good answer for it, too. Number one, they can't shoot them down because of the risk of doing so in the United States. The risk to civilians is too high. If you're shooting, all of those projectiles you're shooting at that thing are going to strike something on the ground. And if you're flying over a built up area, well, you don't know where they're going to land. And if you don't know where they're going to land, then you should not be firing them, and they won't. So the U.S. government literally would watch a drone fly over the U.S. military base back and forth, and would not shoot at it for that very reason. They don't want to hit somebody that doesn't need to be hit. Number two, you might say, well, why don't they just jam it with electronic jammers? Well, for the same reason, because in civilian built up areas, there are civilian air traffic, airplanes and helicopters and things like that, that could be disrupted very dangerously by that kind of electronic jamming. They do have the capacity to do it. They have jammers that will take them down, not the ones that I showed you from DJI, but other ones that the US military has made. And I've seen them in use in places like Syria and Iraq. But they they're not going to use those jammers in a civilian context because they could take down a helicopter, a life flight helicopter. And so there you go. Sorry. Now I'm dying here, and there's nobody here to get me a drink. So I'm going to have to jump up and go get one. Mama Rissa asks, do laws vary by state on whether or not you can engage the drones? No. There is no state in the U.S. that would allow you to engage a drone with a firearm. You point, period, end of story. You cannot shoot down drones. Don't do it. Some people have tried and have gotten themselves in trouble. The only thing you could do, perhaps, is launch your own drone with a net hanging underneath it and fly it into the offending drone and tangle up the offending drone in your net and then take it down like that. There are uh, drone technologies out there that some police stations that have like a net that hangs underneath the drone, and they fly it over there and just catch the illegal drone in the net and take it down that way. Okay. Uh, let's see. Question: should someone fly an unjammable fiber optic FPV drone to see what these drones flying over New Jersey are? Well, there's no reason to do that. And these FPV drones are one-way drones. The fiber optic drones, it would be challenging to get them back. Just part of the technology, this thing is laying down a fiber optic cable as you're flying it. Okay, so that fiber optic cable is laying down over streets and trees and power lines and buildings and stuff as it's flying. It's not like airborne the whole way. There's no way that the drone could support that much cable airborne. But so turning it around and bringing it back, the drones that they're using in Ukraine are one-way drones. They're attack drones. That's it. Okay. And there wouldn't be any reason to fly an unjammable fiber optic FPV drone in the United States unless you had some sort of nefarious intent. And this is where I want to land. I want to end this today. And that's to talk about the future of drone technology. We are entering an era where drones will be used for all sorts of things. And anybody who has a 3D printer and a good amount of imagination, could print a one-way attack drone or 1,000 of them and use them as a swarm to go after somebody they don't like. And this is a enormous problem for the U.S. Secret Service, the U.S. government, for the police, because we've already seen people being assassinated by drones around the world. And we've seen multiple assassination attempts on heads of state by drones. As a matter of fact, the Venezuelan president was almost assassinated by a drone several years ago. This is a real problem because uh, the technology is progressing so fast that the counter technology can't keep up. And so, if these drones that we're seeing in New Jersey, for example, or New York, are part of a government program that they just don't want to tell us about, it may be because they are testing a technology that would allow them to take down uh, enemy drones, but we don't know. And they should share that information if they are. Now, if they're the government of New York has gotten so concerned about this that they actually passed a law that banned drones over New York for the time being. And that's the first time I think I have seen that in the United States. There are many countries around the world that won't let you have a drone at all. If I bring this little drone in uh, here, if I bring this little tiny toy drone into Jordan, for example, they will confiscate it and fine me. If I bring it into Iraq or Egypt or Saudi Arabia, they will arrest me. Okay. You cannot have a drone in those countries. So they're obviously dealing with it that way by just outlawing it outright. And I don't know what will happen if they outlaw DJI drones in the United States because 99% of the drones that are sold in the United States are DJI drones. So what are they going to do with all the existing drones? I've got half a dozen of them myself. So Mama Marissa wants to know what's the battery life. This drone, this little DJI Neo, is supposed to be 18 minutes. I think it's probably closer to 12 or 15 minutes, which is plenty for what I need. Um, and this drone, uh, which is the newer DJI Mini. This one, the battery life is about 40 minutes. It'll fly a long time, and this is a great drone. It's got uh, sensors all the way around so it won't run into things. It'll fly right through a forest and dodge all the trees automatically. It won't run into something and crash. You have a hard time crashing one of these things. And they are great. And this is the small one. The DJI Mavic, which is bigger than this, is spectacular. I mean, the kind of footage you can get with that and the kind of things it can do would have taken a helicopter just a few years ago to do. And so they are being used a lot for all sorts of things. These FPV drones that come with the goggles that you can fly like you're sitting inside it are so much fun. I've got one of those as well. And you just go, and you fly it all around and you feel like you're flying a fighter jet. They're really incredible. So, yeah, uh, I like drones a lot. But bottom line, folks, I don't think that you need to be worried about these drone sightings as far as, they're not going to steal your soul. They're not looking in your bathroom window. They are likely something for the government to be concerned about uh, in terms of espionage, definitely. Or they are the government working on their own drone program, which we know they are, and they just don't want to tell you what they're doing with it. A drone the size of an SUV, I'm there have been several people that have repeated that. I'm not sure that that's actually accurate. If it's a drone that big, it's probably a fixed wing drone, like an airplane, a model airplane. And there are model airplanes that come that large that you can buy. These drones, these little ones are not very expensive. This one was a couple $100. This one, with all the extra batteries and everything, was almost $1,000. The commercial style drones can go up to I think we bought one for Armenia that was $3,600, something like that, that had thermal imaging on it, things like that. But if to have 50 of them, it's either uh, a really well-funded hobbyist or it's a government. That's all there is to it. So I probably didn't answer all your questions, but hopefully I gave you a little more context to go by when you hear the news talking about drones. And if you have any questions, you can get a hold of me by just sending an email to hotzoneholton@gmail.com. Or just go over to chuckholton.com and you can follow me over there. There's a lot of footage that I put up on chuckholton.com because I cannot put it up on YouTube. They will demonetize me if I show you too much. As a matter of fact, the last live that I did, they demonetized just because I showed too many maps. And what a pain that is, because then it means you're working for free. So in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, I'm going to be live over on my own channel, The Hot Zone, talking about Operation Just Cause in Panama and my own introduction to combat in that conflict. And so I hope that you will go to The Hot Zone with Chuck Holton on YouTube and subscribe over there and watch that one as well. And we can talk more about the story of where these lovely animals came from as well. Regarding how about following drones to their point of origin? That's easier said than done because it's really, really hard to find another drone when you're in the air with your drone. I've done it. We've had multiple drones in the air before, and I tried to chase down the other drone, and it was all but impossible to even find it, even when it was trying to be found. And if they're not trying to be found, it's going to be really hard to do. So it's not impossible, but it's not easy either. Good question, Patrick. Regarding possible Chinese drones, does Trump inviting Xi to inauguration place a safety around him in case of potential attack? I so that's a theory. I will just give you that as a theory. Uh, so let's see. Okay, that is all I've got for today. I don't see any more questions. So I'm going to end it right here so I can go get a drink before the next live. Like I said, please go over to chuckholton.com and go to the Hot Zone here on YouTube. So Merry Christmas. I don't know if I will be on again before, or at least not on CBN again before Christmas. And so if I am not, I wish you the very best for you and your family and a very happy new year. God bless you, and we'll see you next time. How do you turn this thing off?